In the stillness of a crisp, pre-dawn morning, the first rays of the sun struggled to pierce the dense canopy of the forest, casting an ethereal glow on the dew-kissed leaves. The forest, usually a serene sanctuary, held an unsettling silence that day, as if it was holding its breath, anticipating the events about to unfold. I was in the driver's seat of my patrol car, the engine humming softly as I navigated the winding roads, my eyes scanning the darkness for any signs of trouble. The quiet was broken only by the occasional hoot of an owl or the distant bark of a stray dog. The radio crackled to life, the dispatcher's voice cutting through the silence. 10-4, Deputy Johnson, we've got a call on County Road 8, possible break-in at the old Jones farm. A wave of familiar unease washed over me. The Jones farm had been abandoned for years, its dilapidated structure a constant reminder of a time long past. The call was an ominous beginning to another day in this sleepy town. I stepped out of my car, the cool morning air biting at my cheeks as I surveyed the surroundings. The farm, shrouded in shadows, loomed before me, its decaying facade a grim testament to the passage of time. The smell of damp earth and decay hung heavy in the air, a stark contrast to the sweet scent of the surrounding forest. I approached the farmhouse cautiously, my hand tightening around the grip of my service revolver. The thought of trespasser or worse was never far from my mind. The front door hung off its hinges. The silence inside the house was deafening. I moved slowly, my boots echoing in the emptiness, my senses heightened. As I ventured deeper into the house, I could feel the weight of the history pressing down on me. The air was thick with dust, the floorboards creaking under my feet. I could see the remnants of a life long past, the ghosts of the Jones family lingering in the shadows. I reached the heart of the house, my heart pounding in my chest. The dim light from the window revealed a scene that would have been tragic if it weren't for the feeling of dread that had settled in my stomach. The room was a mess, furniture overturned, personal items scattered haphazardly. It was clear that someone had been there, but there was no sign of anyone present now. I left the house, the cold air a welcome relief from the oppressive atmosphere inside. I radioed in my findings, the dispatcher acknowledging my report with a terse 10-4, Johnson. Keep us posted. As the sun continued to rise, casting its golden light over the town, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning, and that the silence of the forest held many secrets that I was yet to uncover. In the quiet, unassuming town of Elderbrook, a case would unfold that would forever etch itself into my memory, the story of Angelo Levis, a name that would echo through the halls of our police station, a face etched in the minds of all who knew him. It was a typical summer evening, the sun dipping below the horizon, casting long shadows across the town. The air was heavy with the scent of fresh-cut grass and the distant hum of cicadas. I was patrolling the outskirts, a routine I'd grown accustomed to, when my radio crackled to life. Deputy, we have a 10-21 at 45 Maple Street. The dispatcher's voice came over, her tone urgent. I recognized the address as the Levis residence. Angelo, a man in his mid-40s, lived there with his wife and 2 children. As I pulled up, I saw the lights flashing from the squad cars, the ambulance parked out front, and a crowd gathering. I could hear the wailing of sirens in the distance, a discordant symphony that pierced the serenity of the evening. I made my way through the crowd, my boots crunching on the gravel driveway. The sight that greeted me was one I wish I could erase from my mind. Angelo lay on the ground, his body limp, his eyes staring blankly at the sky. His wife was hysterical, her cries echoing in the stillness. I knelt beside him, my heart heavy. I checked for a pulse, but there was none. Angelo Levis was dead. The investigation that followed was meticulous. We interviewed the family, neighbors, and friends. We scoured the scene for any clues, any hint of what could have led to such a tragic end. The autopsy revealed he had been poisoned, but the question remained, who would do such a thing and why? The case was closed, but the questions lingered. Angelo was a beloved member of our community, a man who always had a kind word, a helping hand. His death left a void that no one could fill. In the years since, I've seen many things as a deputy, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But the case of Angelo Levis stands out. It serves as a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk in even the most peaceful of places. It's a reminder that we must always be vigilant, always be ready to serve and protect. And it's a reminder that some questions may never be answered, some mysteries may never be solved. But we must keep trying, for those we lost, for the peace of our community, and for justice. In the heart of a sleepy town, where the sun dips gently behind the mountains, painting the sky a vibrant hue of orange and purple. An unassuming quiet settles in. But beneath this tranquility, a storm was brewing, a storm that would shake the very foundations of our peaceful community. It was a typical summer evening when the urgent call came in. A manhunt was about to begin, and I, Deputy Jameson, found myself squarely in the midst of it. The name on everyone's lips was Jacob Necochea, a man wanted for questioning in a string of burglaries that had left our town's folks uneasy. Rumors of his whereabouts swirled like a whirlwind, and the air was thick with tension. As I sat in my patrol car, the engine humming softly, I couldn't help but feel the weight of responsibility settling on my shoulders. As the sun dipped lower, I could feel the chill creeping in, a reminder of the long night ahead. The radio crackled to life, the dispatcher's voice frantic. All units, be advised. We have a possible sighting of Jacob Necochea in the industrial park. Move quickly. I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my knuckles turning white, and pressed the accelerator, the tires screeching as I sped off. The industrial park was a maze of dark, empty buildings and deserted streets. The silence was deafening, broken only by the crunch of gravel under my tires. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest, the adrenaline coursing through my veins. My senses were on high alert. Every sound, every movement, every shadow could be a sign, a clue to Necochea's whereabouts. Suddenly, a flicker of movement caught my eye. I slammed on the brakes, my heart racing. A figure, hidden in the shadows, darted into the darkness. I leapt out of my car, my weapon drawn, every muscle taut with anticipation. But the figure was gone, vanished into the night like a ghost. I could hear the dispatcher's voice in my earpiece, urging me to stay calm, to keep searching. I continued my search, the cold night air biting at my cheeks, my breath visible in the darkness. The hunt was on, and I was determined to bring Necochea to justice. The night wore on, and the darkness seemed to close in around me, but I pressed on, driven by a sense of duty, a desire to protect my town. As the first light of dawn began to peek over the horizon, I received the call I'd been waiting for. Necochea had been found, apprehended, and our town could finally breathe a sigh of relief. The hunt was over, but the memories of that long, cold night would remain etched in my mind, a testament to the lengths we will go to protect our community. In the quiet hours of a moonlit night, the serenity of our small town was shattered by an unholy disturbance. A call of an armed robbery at the local convenience store had jolted me from my slumber, echoing through the radio like a clarion call to duty. As I stepped out of my patrol car, the cool night air filled my lungs, a stark contrast to the adrenaline surging through my veins. The store's neon sign flickered ominously, casting long shadows that danced in the stillness. The scent of cigarette butts and stale milk hung heavy in the air, a testament to the chaos that had unfolded mere moments before. Inside, the store looked like a tornado had swept through, shelves toppled, goods scattered, and a sense of unease lingering. I could see the terrified cashier, shaking, her eyes wide with fear. I offered her a reassuring nod, promising her that we would find the man who had caused this. Stepping outside, I surveyed the scene. The getaway vehicle, a battered old pickup truck, was nowhere to be found. But there, in the gravel, a partial footprint stood out like a beacon in the darkness. It was a small detail, but it was something. I radioed in the description of the suspect, a tall, lanky man wearing a black hoodie and jeans, and the make and model of the truck. My partners were already on their way, and I could feel the gears of law enforcement beginning to turn. I followed the footprint, my footsteps echoing in the stillness. The night was alive with the sounds of crickets and the distant hoot of an owl. But over it all, the echo of the terrified cashier's voice kept ringing in my ears, a reminder of the stakes involved. The trail led me to an old, abandoned warehouse. My heart pounded in my chest as I approached, the sense of danger palpable. I could feel the eyes of the darkness watching me, the air thick with anticipation. I cautiously entered the warehouse, my gun held at the ready. The darkness swallowed me whole, but I pressed on, trusting my instincts and the training that had been ingrained in me. And there, in the depths of the warehouse, I found him. The suspect, crouched in the shadows, a gun in his hand. I could see the fear in his eyes as they locked on mine, the realization of defeat staring back at me. It was a moment of pure adrenaline, a testament to the chaos and danger that comes with this job. But it was also a moment of triumph, a testament to the fact that justice would prevail. I holstered my gun, handcuffed him, and read him his rights. The night was far from over, but for now, the danger had been neutralized, and the town was safe once more. I stepped back out into the cool night air, the adrenaline fading, replaced by a sense of satisfaction. Another day had passed, another bad guy brought to justice. This was the life of a deputy, a life of danger, of uncertainty, but also of purpose. And I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. In the stillness of that small, rural town, a storm had been brewing, unseen and unheard by most. The air was thick with tension, a palpable weight that hung heavy in the humid summer air. I, a seasoned deputy, felt it like a familiar itch I couldn't quite scratch. The case had been gnawing at me for weeks. A string of burglaries, each one more brazen than the last, had left the townsfolk on edge. The perpetrator, elusive and cunning, seemed to taunt us with their anonymity. But that was about to change. The break came one evening, as the sun was dipping below the horizon, casting long shadows that danced upon the cracked pavement of Main Street. A call came in, a report of a suspicious individual lurking behind the general store. As I approached, my heart pounding in my chest, I could feel the tension coiling tighter, the storm finally breaking. There, in the dim light, stood the man I had been hunting for weeks. His face was a mask of fear, his eyes wide with guilt. I could smell the sweat on him, a mix of fear and adrenaline that was all too familiar. I had seen that scent before, on countless criminals, each one trying to mask their guilt with bravado. I approached him slowly, my hand resting on my service revolver, a silent reminder of the law I was sworn to uphold. As I spoke, my voice steady, my tone calm, I could see the fear in his eyes grow. He was cornered, trapped by his own actions. "Why, John?" I asked, using his first name, a subtle reminder of our shared history. I knew him, had arrested him once for a petty theft. He was a small-time criminal, always looking for an easy mark, a quick score. But this was different. These burglaries were more than just a way to make ends meet. John, his eyes still wide with fear, began to speak. He revealed a motive I never could have imagined, one that was as twisted as it was tragic. He had been stealing to support a drug habit, a habit born out of desperation and a need to escape the pain of losing his wife to cancer. In that moment, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Sympathy for his plight, anger at the harm he had caused, and a sense of relief that the truth had finally come to light. I arrested him, taking him away in handcuffs, ending the reign of terror he had unleashed upon our town. As I drove him away, the sun setting behind us, I couldn't help but think about the consequences of his actions. The fear he had caused, the lives he had disrupted. But I also thought about the pain that had driven him to do what he did. Pain that was all too familiar to me, a pain that I knew all too well. That night, as I sat in my office, the weight of the badge heavy upon my chest, I couldn't help but wonder if there was more I could have done to help John before he turned to crime. But the question was moot. The damage had been done. All I could do now was ensure that justice was served, and that the town was safe once more. And so, I continued my duty, day after day, night after night, chasing the shadows that lurked in the corners of our town. The storm had passed, but I knew all too well that another was sure to come. But for now, I rested, knowing that I had done my part to bring the truth to light, and to bring justice to those who had been wronged. In the heart of the courtroom, under the unforgiving gaze of the judge and the watchful eyes of the jury, I stood there, my heart pounding like a drum in my chest. The defendant, a man whose crimes had torn our community apart, looked at me with a cold, hard glare, oblivious to the weight of his actions. The prosecutor, a seasoned veteran, delivered his closing argument with a passion that was palpable. His words echoed in the silence of the court, painting a vivid picture of the chaos the defendant had sowed. As he spoke, I could almost feel the fear and despair that had gripped our town in his wake. The defense, on the other hand, was a smooth-talking charmer, spinning a web of lies and half-truths to sway the jury. But I watched as each juror's eyes narrowed, their faces hardening with every falsehood. The defendant's smug confidence began to crumble, replaced by a growing sense of dread. The judge, a stern woman with a no-nonsense demeanor, banged her gavel, silencing the court. The jury was sent away to deliberate. Outside, the tension was palpable. The sun beat down mercilessly, casting long shadows over the courthouse steps. I could hear the whispers of the townsfolk, their hopes and fears hanging in the air. I retreated to the sheriff's office, my mind a whirlwind of thoughts. There was a sense of unease, a fear that justice might not prevail. But I had faith. I had seen the evidence, heard the testimony, and felt the pain of the victims. I knew the truth. Hours passed, and the jury finally returned. One by one, they filed into the courtroom, their faces stoic, their eyes downcast. The foreperson stepped up to the judge, a heavy folder in her hands. She opened it, revealing the verdict, guilty on all charges. The defendant's smug expression crumbled, replaced by a look of shock and disbelief. He tried to maintain his composure, but the cold, hard truth was unavoidable. Justice had been served. In that moment, I felt a sense of relief wash over me, a weight lifted from my shoulders. But I knew the fight wasn't over. The defendant